The studio lights burned warm as Willie Nelson took his seat on the view, guitar case resting quietly beside him, a familiar symbol of decades spent speaking his mind through music. The audience applauded with reverence, expecting stories of songs, road dust, and resilience. Instead, the conversation took an early turn when Joy Behar steered the discussion toward politics and cultural divides, framing her question with a sharp edge. Willie smiled politely, answering with calm reflections about unity and personal freedom, but the tone in the room shifted, subtle at first, like a tightening string. Joy pressed again, interrupting before Willie could finish his thought, reframing his words as evasive. Willie's expression remained gentle, yet his eyes hinted at discomfort. He spoke slowly, choosing words like notes, explaining that his music had always been about people, not parties. The hosts shifted in their chairs, sensing friction. The audience murmured as Joy challenged him directly, suggesting his stance avoided accountability. Willie nodded, listening, but the air felt heavier, as if decades of lived experience were being reduced to a sound bite. Willie responded by sharing a memory from the road, a night when strangers helped him after a breakdown, reminding him that humanity often transcends ideology. Joy countered sharply, insisting that neutrality favors injustice. The exchange grew tense, with overlapping voices and quick retorts. Willie raised a hand, asking for space to finish, but the interruption continued. His smile faded, replaced by a patient seriousness. The guitar case beside him felt symbolic now, a quieter voice waiting while words collided on live television. The camera cut to reactions, co-hosts glancing between Willie and Joy, unsure whether to mediate or let the moment play out. Willie leaned forward, explaining that he believed in listening first, that shouting rarely heals. Joy questioned whether listening without taking sides was enough. The audience shifted again, applause mixed with silence. Willie's voice stayed steady, but a strain crept in, as if he were carrying the weight of being misunderstood in a room built for debate, not reflection. As the conversation spiraled, Willie gently reminded Joy that respect was the foundation of dialogue. Joy bristled, interpreting the comment as condescension. She pushed back harder, her tone rising. Willie paused, taking a breath that felt longer than the broadcast allowed. He glanced toward the band area, then back to the hosts, as if deciding whether staying seated served the message he believed in. The tension reached a point where calm felt like it might be mistaken for surrender. Willie spoke again, softer now, saying he didn't come to argue but to share music and stories. Joy replied that public figures must face tough questions. Willie agreed, yet asked for the courtesy of being heard. The words overlapped once more. The audience reaction split audibly. In that moment, Willie's posture changed. He straightened, placed a hand on the arm of his chair, and the room seemed to hold its breath, anticipating a decision that would ripple beyond the set. With measured politeness, Willie thanked the hosts for the invitation. He said he believed conversations should leave room for grace, and that today felt different. Joy attempted to respond, but Willie continued, voice firm yet kind. He explained that walking away sometimes preserves dignity more than staying to spar. The co-hosts looked stunned as Willie stood, the guitar case lifted in one smooth motion, a lifetime of stages reflected in the ease of his movement. Applause broke out, scattered and uncertain. Joy called after him, insisting she respected his work, but the words arrived too late to stop his stride. Willie paused briefly, turning back with a nod that acknowledged the room without reopening the debate. Cameras followed as he exited, the door closing softly behind him. The silence left behind felt louder than any argument, a reminder that live television thrives on conflict, but artists often live by quieter codes. The hosts scrambled to regroup, explaining to viewers that emotions run high when values collide. Joy defended her line of questioning, framing it as necessary. Others suggested the moment revealed deeper cultural fatigue. Outside the studio, Willie took a breath, the hallway calm compared to the charged set. He adjusted his hat, expression thoughtful rather than angry, as if already composing the lesson the moment would become. News of the walk-off spread rapidly, clips circulating within minutes. Commentators debated whether Willie had avoided accountability or modeled self-respect. Fans flooded social media with praise, citing his lifelong consistency and refusal to be boxed in. Critics argued he should have stayed. The narrative fractured, each side projecting its own expectations onto the exchange. Willie remained silent publicly, letting the moment speak for itself, a choice consistent with an artist who lets songs do the arguing. Back on the show, Joy reflected on air, acknowledging the exchange escalated faster than intended. She maintained her belief in tough conversations but admitted interruptions can derail understanding. The audience response remained mixed. The moment became a case study in modern discourse, where platforms reward heat over patience. Willie's departure, calm and deliberate, contrasted sharply with the frantic pace of commentary that followed. Longtime collaborators weighed in, noting Willie's aversion to shouting matches and his preference for empathy. They recalled countless instances where he diffused tension with humor or humility. This time, however, the format offered little room for either. The walk-off wasn't rage, they said, but boundary setting. In an era of performative outrage, the choice to leave quietly felt radical, even provocative. Analysts replayed the exchange frame by frame, dissecting tone and timing. Some argued Joy's persistence reflected journalistic duty. Others felt it crossed into dismissal. The truth, as always, lived somewhere between. Willie's bodied language told its own story. Patience stretched thin, not by disagreement, but by being spoken over. For viewers, it became a mirror reflecting their own thresholds for confrontation. Days later, Willie addressed the moment briefly at a concert, thanking fans for listening and emphasizing kindness. He joked lightly, easing tension, then played a song about shared roads and borrowed time. The crowd understood. Music filled the space words had strained, reminding everyone that dialogue takes many forms, and sometimes leaving a room preserves the harmony you hope to hear again. The incident reignited conversations about talk show dynamics, questioning whether genuine exchange can survive in formats built for speed. Producers defended the structure, while critics called for more listening. Willie's walk-off became shorthand for opting out of unproductive cycles. The phrase trended, detached from its nuance, yet still carried the lesson about agency. Joy later clarified her respect for Willie's legacy, expressing regret that the moment overshadowed his contributions. She stood by her principles but acknowledged the need for balance. The acknowledgement cooled some of the backlash, though debates lingered. In public memory, the moment remained less about who was right and more about how quickly respect can erode when urgency replaces curiosity. Fans revisited Willie's lyrics, finding lines that echoed the exchange calls for compassion, warnings against noise without meaning. The walk-off felt consistent with the man who has always chosen roads less traveled. It wasn't an exit from conversation, but an insistence on the terms of engagement. That distinction mattered to those who listened closely. Media cycles moved on, yet the clip resurfaced whenever discourse turned heated. It became a reference point, invoked by both sides to argue opposite lessons. Willie, unbothered, returned to touring, his schedule proved that art endures beyond viral moments. The hallway or closing on that set became a metaphor for choosing peace without surrender. Scholars of communication cited the exchange in classrooms, discussing interruption, power, and platform incentives. Students debated whether walking away advances understanding or stalls it. The answer varied, shaped by values and experience. Willie's choice offered no universal solution, only a personal one, grounded in self-knowledge. For many viewers, the moment humanized both figures, revealing the strain of public conversation. Joy's urgency met Willie's restraint, neither villain nor hero in full. The collision exposed a system that rewards escalation. The quiet exit challenged that rewards structure, even if briefly. As time passed, the story softened, losing its sharp edges. What remained was an image of an artist choosing dignity over debate, and a host grappling with the limits of her approach. The nuance rarely survives headlines, but it lingers in longer tellings, where context breathes. Willie's fans framed the walk-off as a lesson in boundaries, especially for elders navigating spaces that demand constant performance. It resonated beyond celebrity, touching anyone who has felt unheard. The simplicity of standing up and leaving carried weight precisely because it lacked spectacle. Critics, meanwhile, argued that influence carries responsibility to endure discomfort. The tension between self-care and civic duty remained unresolved. Willie's silence on the matter allowed interpretations to multiply, each revealing more about the interpreter than the event. In retrospectives, producers admitted the segment moved too fast. Editing favors clarity, but live television offers none. The moment underscored the need for structural changes if genuine conversation is the goal. Whether those changes arrive remains uncertain. Willie's music continued to chart its own course, unbothered by panels or pundits. The walk-off faded into the larger tapestry of career defined by authenticity. When asked indirectly, he smiled and said he believes in leaving rooms better than he found them, even if that means leaving them. The exchange became a reminder that respect isn't agreement, and listening isn't endorsement. It tasked viewers to consider how often they interrupt, how rarely they pause. Willie's exit invited reflection more than resolution. As cultural temperatures rose elsewhere, the clip resurfaced again, a cautionary tale or a rallying cry depending on who shared it. Its endurance proved that moments of restraint can be as viral as outbursts, if they strike a nerve. Ultimately, the story wasn't about winning an argument, it was about choosing a way to be in the world. Willie chose calm, Joy chose challenge, and the audience chose sides. The space between those choices is where understanding might grow. In quieter corners, viewers admitted the moment made them rethink how they engage, both online and off. The door closing on that set echoed in living rooms, asking a simple question: when is staying brave, and when is leaving wise? The answer, like Willie's music, resists simplification. The walk-off remains a snapshot of our time, messy, noisy, urgent, divided, punctured by a gentle refusal to shout. And in that refusal, many heard a different kind of message, one that lingers long after the cameras stop. In the weeks that followed, commentators began reframing the incident not as a clash of personalities, but as a symptom of a culture struggling to balance conviction with courtesy. Willie's departure was revisited alongside other walk-offs, each carrying different motives, yet sharing a common fatigue. Viewers noted how quickly conversations turned transactional, measured in applause and clips rather than understanding. The moment invited a slower gaze, asking whether speed itself has become the antagonist in public dialogue. Fans attending Willie's shows noticed a subtle shift in setlists, songs about patience and perspective surfacing more often. He never explained the choices, letting the music speak. Between verses, he thanked the crowd for listening, emphasizing how rare that felt these days. The applause lingered longer than usual, less explosive and more sustained, as if the audience recognized itself in the sentiment and welcomed the invitation to breathe. Meanwhile, daytime television panels debated the ethics of interruption. Producers defended the practice as necessary to keep segments moving, while critics argued that silence as nuance. The Willie moment became a benchmark, a line-cited one arguing for reform. Even those who disagreed with his stance admitted the exit exposed structural pressures that leave little room for reflection, especially when disagreement is framed as spectacle. Joy Behar addressed the incident again in an interview, acknowledging that passion can blur into persistence. She spoke about the difficulty of moderating conversations that carry emotional weight. While standing firm on her beliefs, she conceded that timing matters. The acknowledgement softened public perception, illustrating that learning can occur on both sides when defensiveness gives way to honesty. Social media, however, remained unforgiving. Short clips stripped context, captions sharpened angles, and nuance evaporated. Willie's calm became defiance, Joy's insistence became hostility. The binary thrived, yet beneath the noise, longer essays and podcasts explored the exchange with care, attracting audiences hungry for depth. The contrast revealed a quiet appetite for conversations that unfold rather than explode. Scholars pointed out how age and experience factor into expectations. Willie, an elder statesman, was expected by some to endure as a symbol, while others felt his age granted him the right to refuse disrespect. The debate touched nerves about generational listening, questioning who adapts to whom. The walk-off crystallized these tensions without resolving them, leaving space for ongoing inquiry. At community gatherings and family dinners, people referenced the moment as shorthand for knowing when to disengage. It became a lesson shared across contexts, From workplaces to classrooms. Willie's choice validated the idea that boundaries aren't weakness, especially when conversation ceases to be reciprocal. The lesson traveled far beyond television, embedding itself in everyday decisions. Media critics highlighted the economics behind Confrontation, noting how conflict drives ratings. The Willie clip performed well, reinforcing incentives that make calmer exchanges risky. His exit briefly disrupted that logic, proving that restraint can captivate too. Whether networks will adjust remains uncertain, but the example lingers as proof that audiences respond to authenticity. Musicians weighed in, discussing how artists are often invited for promotion but steered into controversy. Many expressed admiration for Willie's refusal to play the role assigned to him. The solidarity underscored a shared weariness with performative debate, and a desire to protect creative spaces from being reduced to battlegrounds. Over time, the story settled into cultural memory, resurfacing during moments of heightened tension. Each retelling shifted emphasis, sometimes highlighting courage, other times avoidance. The malleability of the narrative revealed how events become vessels for broader anxieties. Willie's silence allowed that process to unfold unchecked, a reminder that control over one's story is always partial. In reflective pieces, writers noted how the walk-off contrasted with Willie's collaborative history, filled with unlikely partnerships and open-hearted exchanges. The contrast made the decision more striking, suggesting not intolerance for disagreement, but intolerance for dismissal. That distinction became central to fairer readings of the moment. Viewers who initially criticized Willie later admitted reconsideration after rewatching the full segment. Context-altered conclusions. The exercise underscored the importance of completeness and judgment, a lesson easily forgotten in fast-moving feeds. The incident became a case for patience, both in conversation and consumption. As seasons changed, the show moved on, new controversies replacing old. Yet for those who watched closely, the image of Willie standing remained vivid. It symbolized an alternative response to provocation, one that rejects escalation without abandoning principle. That image quietly challenged assumptions about strength. In interviews unrelated to the incident, Willie spoke about choosing joy over noise. The words resonated differently now, colored by experience. Fans connected dots without needing confirmation. The message felt earned, grounded in action rather than rhetoric, and therefore harder to dismiss. Ultimately, the walk-off endures as a moment that resists closure. It offers no tidy moral, only an invitation to examine how we speak and listen. In a culture addicted to the last word, Willie's choice to leave first carved out a rare pause, reminding us that sometimes the most powerful statement is knowing when enough has been said. As retrospectives continued, some observers compared the incident to earlier eras of television when guests were afforded longer answers and fewer interruptions. The comparison wasn't nostalgic so much as instructive, highlighting how formats shape behavior. Willie's discomfort appeared less personal and more structural, a response to a system that compresses complexity into minutes. His exit served as a quiet critique of that compression, urging a reconsideration of how much depth audiences are truly allowed. Younger viewers discovered Willie's catalog through the controversy, curious about the man behind the moment. Streaming numbers ticked upward as listeners explored songs filled with humility and reflection. Many were surprised by how closely the music aligned with his on-air demeanor. The walk-off became an entry point, not an ending, guiding new fans toward a body of work that prizes listening as much as expression. Industry insiders noted that moments like this reveal the hidden labor of civility. Remaining calm under pressure requires energy, and that energy is finite. Willie's decision suggested an awareness of his limits, a refusal to spend emotional capital on an exchange he felt was no longer mutual. The framing shifted from fragility to discernment, a reframing that resonated with those navigating burnout in public-facing roles. Joy's supporters argued that persistence is often mislabeled as aggression, especially when women challenge revered figures. This perspective added necessary nuance, reminding audiences that power dynamics are complex and context-dependent. The incident thus expanded beyond personalities, inviting examination of gender, age, and authority in televised debate. The conversation grew richer when these layers were acknowledged rather than ignored. In classrooms and workshops, facilitators used the clip to teach active listening, pausing at moments of overlap to discuss alternatives. Students proposed different interventions, imagining how the exchange might have unfolded with clearer turn-taking. The exercise transformed a viral clash into a learning tool, demonstrating how even imperfect moments can educate when approached with care. Over time, the language around the walk-off softened. Headlines lost their bite, replaced by reflective analyses. The shift mirrored a broader fatigue with outrage cycles. Willie's calm departure felt increasingly prescient, a model for disengagement that doesn't demean. The idea that leaving can be an act of respect toward oneself and others gained quiet traction. Fans wrote letters describing how the moment encouraged them to set boundaries in difficult conversations. Some shared stories of stepping away from unproductive arguments with family or colleagues. Willie's example offered permission, especially to those taught that endurance equals virtue. The resonance suggested that the incident tapped into a widespread need for healthier communication norms. Media ethicists questioned whether producers should intervene more actively when exchanges escalate. The Willie moment became a reference in policy discussions about moderation versus spontaneity. While no consensus emerged, the debate itself signaled progress, acknowledging that formats influence outcomes. The possibility of redesign lingered, even if implementation lagged. As anniversaries of the clip quietly passed, its meaning continued to evolve. What once felt shocking became familiar, even instructive. The endurance of the moment lay not in drama, but in its restraint. Willie's walk-off remained a reminder that authenticity often appears understated, especially when contrasted with noise. In the end, the incident settled into Willie Nelson's long narrative as a footnote rather than a chapter. His legacy, built over decades, easily absorbed a single televised moment. Yet for viewers, that footnote carried weight, offering a snapshot of integrity under pressure. It proved that legacies aren't only shaped by grand gestures, but by small, deliberate choices. The conversation around Joy also matured, recognizing her role as a provocateur committed to engagement, even when it risks friction. Understanding grew that intentions and impacts can diverge. This recognition didn't erase disagreement, but it fostered empathy, a scarce commodity in polarized spaces. The walk-off's quiet power lay in its refusal to escalate. It didn't demand apologies or victories. It simply ended a moment that no longer felt constructive. That simplicity challenged assumptions about confrontation, suggesting alternatives that preserve dignity without silencing conviction. As cultural dialogues continue to strain under urgency, the image of Willie standing remains instructive. It invites a recalibration of pace and tone. In choosing departure over dominance, he modeled a form of strength that doesn't require the last word, only clarity about one's values. The story's longevity underscores a collective yearning for better conversations. Whether viewers sided with Willie or Joy mattered less than the reflection sparked. The incident became a mirror, asking audiences to consider how they participate in discourse, and what they reward with attention. Ultimately, the moment endures because it resists reduction. It wasn't a meltdown or a triumph, but a boundary drawn in real time. In a world where every exchange feels like a contest, Willie Nelson's quiet exit offered a different ending, a one that leaves space for listening to begin again elsewhere. The legacy of the walk-off also carried broader implications for how we consume media. It reminded viewers that every moment broadcasted doesn't need to be turned into a spectacle. There is power in silence, in choosing to step away when words no longer serve the conversation. For some, the moment became a challenge to reconsider how we engage with media that thrives on confrontation rather than collaboration. In online forums, discussions expanded beyond the specifics of the View episode and ventured into the idea of public figures protecting their mental and emotional well-being. Willie's walk-off became emblematic of personal preservation in an era where public figures are often expected to endure endless scrutiny without reprieve. His decision to leave underscored the importance of safeguarding one's peace, even in a professional setting where expectations run high. Over time, The incident sparked further dialogue about the role of television as a platform for genuine discussion. Many felt that the format of the show, while designed to entertain, didn't allow for nuanced conversations. The rash nature of live television, particularly in the context of debates or disagreements, became a topic of discussion, with many calling for longer, more thoughtful exchanges rather than the quick sound bites that often dominate. The Willie walk-off also intersected with broader conversations about celebrity activism. Many public figures, especially those with long-standing careers like Willie, often face the challenge of balancing their personal beliefs with their public personas. Willie's refusal to engage in a heated argument made a powerful statement about the type of activism he champions, one that doesn't demand attention through conflict but instead focuses on the deeper values of respect and understanding. Behind the scenes, there was speculation about how much of the confrontation had been planned. In an era where reality TV often blurs the line between authenticity and performance, some wondered whether the incident was staged. However, those who knew Willie Nelson well agreed that his decision to walk off was genuine, a testament to his integrity. For him, it wasn't about playing into a narrative but about standing by his principles. The incident also served as a reminder of how quickly we judge public figures, especially when they deviate from expectations. Willie's walk-off, which some initially viewed as a dramatic escape, was later reframed by many as a form of quiet strength. This shift in perspective highlighted how our knee-jerk reactions often fail to account for the complexity of the people behind the headlines. In the aftermath, many began to reflect on the role of television talk shows in shaping public discourse. Was their primary function to inform or to entertain? The show's rapid pace and constant interruptions often reduced guests to sound bites, denying them the space to express their thoughts fully. Willie's walk-off became a critique of that very structure, suggesting that real conversations need time and respect to unfold, not just rapid-fire exchanges designed for maximum shock value. Fans of Willie Nelson often refer to his walk-off as a lesson in setting boundaries, especially in an era where it is easy to get caught up in the noise of social media and public opinion. It served as a reminder that it's okay to step away when a conversation no longer serves you or the people involved. It was a message not just for celebrities, but for anyone who feels pressured to conform or engage in unproductive debates. As the months passed, the Willie Nelson walk-off was no longer just a viral moment. It became part of a larger cultural conversation about the state of public discourse in the modern age. Was confrontation always necessary? Did every disagreement have to result in conflict? Willie's example suggested that there are other ways to engage, ways that prioritize dignity over drama, respect over rhetoric, and humanity over headlines. Ultimately, the walk-off reminded everyone that how we handle moments of tension speaks volumes about our character. Willie Nelson's decision to quietly leave The View wasn't an act of surrender but one of integrity. It was a statement that sometimes, the best response to a heated conversation isn't to escalate but to step away and preserve what truly matters, peace of mind and self-respect.